Hello nerds! Welcome to Generally Nerdy. This is your week in Nerdom Music Edition for the week of February 12th, 2018. This week in music we have so much new music to talk about I can't even go over it all in the intro, and we have another farewell tour announcement. So let's get into that intro before, the news.
Quiet on the set, rolling.
Hi, I am Bitsy Telek.
Hey, I'm Hale Appleman.
I'm Walter Kane.
I'm Rene Aubergenois. Odo on Deep Space Nine.
Michael Dorn, Lieutenant Commander Worf, Star Trek The Next Generation.
Come and see me and hear me and talk to me and listen to me talk about myself.
Hey man, this is Kevin Smith, often considered generally nerdy, and you are listening to what is often considered generally nerdy.
On Generally Nerdy.
You're listening to
Generally Nerdy.
Generally Nerdy.
Generally nerdy.
Oh my gosh, okay, so this is probably going to be a quick episode, but it's still got a lot of stuff to talk about. First, and let's do it this way. I'm going to put all of the new music at the beginning, and then we'll talk about the other things that aren't necessarily new music afterwards. So first, we're talking about Caliban. For those of you who do not know who that band is, that is a German metalcore band that started back when I first got into really heavy music. They are putting out a new album. It's coming out April 6th. It's called Elements. Link to their first single off of that record. It's called Intoxicated. I listened to it while I was doing the research for this, and you can tell they started making music around about 2007 because it sounds like they're still making music around about 2007. This band has not evolved. I really dug their first record. I haven't listened to much since, and I can see I didn't really miss much. But we're kicking on down the road. We're moving into another band called Tesseract. For those of you familiar with the gent subgenre of metal, you will know the name Tesseract. For those of you that aren't familiar with the gent subgenre of metal, let me fill you in. There is a band called Meshuggah who does really crazy polyrhythmic stuff and really super heavy music that they play on 8-string guitars. Now, it's not like a classical 8-string that doubles up on some of the strings. These are 8 individually tuned strings, so they're just really super low. They have really fat strings, kind of like a bass, like the high string on a bass anyway. So because of that heavy gauge, because of that low tuning, they're a very heavy band, and because of their polyrhythms, they're a very complex band, and because their lead guitar player rather is some sort of strange mutant who plays these crazy jazzy solos over these ridiculous polyrhythms, they're not exactly the biggest band in the world. And their vocalist screams, which again is not super huge. Well, actually no, they very well could be the biggest band in the world, but in the States anyway, where I live, they are not exactly the biggest band. Anyway, I had to tell you that so I could tell you this. Their guitar player, again, the crazy mutant that he is, tweeted or posted something to their website about the new tone for one of their records and how he got a really interesting gent kind of sound. He was describing the noise that his guitar was making when he chugged on the low strings. And trendy hipster types everywhere went, oh, this is a new genre of music. And now there's a slew of bands who call themselves gent bands, D-J-E-N-T, that basically just write the songs that Meshuggah would have thrown away. Tesseract is one of those bands. At least they used to be. Now people are calling them prog, which I guess you could kind of qualify all of the gent bands as prog because they fit in the prog metal kind of categorization, but I don't hear it. With this new record, the review that I read of it, because it's not available yet, it will be out in April as well. It'll be April 20th. They released their first song, Luminary, from this record, and it was not that heavy, and it was super boring. Link to the description. I mean, I like certain genres because of the genre description. So like hardcore music, I like and when I say that, I mean I like mediocre bands that fall into that genre description. So hardcore music, I really like mediocre hardcore. Metalcore is the same thing. Pop music, that one is a little less, but still similar. And rock and roll, any of these genres, but I recognize their mediocrity. When I say I like a band, but they're mediocre, then you know they're probably not that great. Tesseract, I had an appreciation for their earlier stuff. This song, I can appreciate that they're trying to change their sound. They are trying to become more prog. I just was bored to tears listening to the song. And if it's prog, generally the stereotype with prog metal is that you get these super long, like 8-minute epic songs. And this first song is 3.5 minutes, maybe a little more than 3.5 minutes. And that's not really a prog song length. But again, you can't really, because there's only 8 songs on the track listing for the album, so that would imply that some of their songs are super long, so that's kind of whatever. But just the quality of music that we're putting out here, you can tell they are very good musicians, but just boring. This song was not a good song. Again, link in the description. We're kicking on down the road. Next song we're talking about is Code Orange is put out a new song. This one is not with a talk of a new record, but it is a new song. And this one, I don't know what to make of this one. I really think this is their first one that's been produced since they signed to Roadrunner. For those of you that don't know, Roadrunner is one of the premier metal record labels right now. They have been for a while. That's where Slipknot has been signed to. Devil Driver is on Roadrunner. I think Machine Head is on Roadrunner these days. So a lot of really heavy bands that have mass appeal are on Roadrunner. If you want the super, super heavy stuff, you got to kick over to Sumerian. But Code Orange is really heavy. They have a lot of hardcore elements, and they also have a lot of what is referred to as post-metal elements. So things a la Neurosis and Battle of Mice and things like that. Made Out of Babies, rather. Battle of Mice is a supergroup. Anyway, they have those kind of elements too, which that's one of the reasons why I really, really dig Code Orange. They're a very new band. They put out only one album as Code Orange. They put out 2 other ones before that under the name Code Orange Kids, which they were a little more post-metal then, and they added a lot more hardcore elements as they got more into their craft as they progressed in their career. This new song is kind of on a different level. Like, I'm not gonna lie, there was definitely times where I was like, I think I'm gonna get bored with this, kind of like I did with the Tesseract song, but it kept me interested. Like, I wanted to see what happened next. Whereas Tesseract, I could see what was gonna happen next. Code Orange, I didn't know what was gonna happen next. It has a fairly close to basic song structure with a couple of really twisty things in there. There was times that I thought that my speaker, there was something wrong with the speaker, or the file that I was listening to was corrupted. Definitely going to put a link to that. This is one I want to talk to you music nerds about. What do you think if you are into heavy music? And this song isn't necessarily heavy even. It's a lot more melodic than most of their stuff. But if you do like this kind of music, what do you think of this song specifically? Because my only one criticism, aside from the fact that I don't know what else to make of it, is I feel like they put way too much reverb on everything. I can understand verbing out your drums for sure, and even your guitars to an extent, but this just sounded too verby. But yeah, so let's talk about that down low in those comments. Kicking on next, the next bit of new music that we got was from A Perfect Circle. It's been 15 years since we got a Perfect Circle record. That record was 2003's 13th Step. This new record is, I didn't write down the new record name. Something about elephants. I don't remember. I'll definitely put it in the description, but I'll also put a graphic right here. The new single though that they just released, they didn't release a video, just the single, is called Talk Talk, and it's A Perfect Circle. Like, it's definitely Maynard's other band, and It's good. I feel like this is better than 13th Step, but still not as good as Nerdom, their first record, which was really damn good. But yeah, link in the description. What do you think about this song? I dig it, but not as much as Nerdom. And then our last bit of new music news. There are some other things we got to talk about in new music, but new tunes to listen to is stuff. We got an EP all released the same day, I believe, from Mike Shinoda, the other vocalist from Linkin Park, the rapper vocalist, obviously, because Chester has passed. It's a 3-song EP called Post Traumatic. It is super emotional. It is definitely Mike Shinoda dealing with losing his friend, and kind of you can see the stages of grief in these 3 songs. And my favorite of the 3 by far is the second one, because that's where it's more hip-hoppy. You can also see by listening to these, you can see just how much Shinoda contributes to the sound of Linkin Park. So it's very interesting. Link to at least one of those videos is going to be in the description down below. All right, so that's all the new music that we've got to talk about. We still have 2 other bits to talk about that aren't new music. First, we're talking AC/DC. AC/DC, we all thought was done. They lost their drummer, they lost their rhythm guitar player, or not their drummer. They lost their vocalist. Ryan Johnson is gone because he's losing his hearing. They lost their rhythm guitar player who passed on. And so they did a tour with Axl, as everyone assumed was going to be their farewell tour. Well, no, it doesn't seem to be the case. It sounds like they're going to continue with Axl on vocals for at least another album. There is an Australian music journalist, because AC/DC is from Australia, music journalist who is close to the band, named Murray Englehart, who says that they are going to continue. And not only are they going to continue with Axl, but they are currently writing new music. So that's really interesting. That has not been confirmed from the band themselves, but again, Murray Englehart, the guy who broke the news, has connections to the band. I don't know that he's a confidant, I can't say that, but I do know at least that he has some connections with this band. So if anyone's gonna know aside from the band, it's gonna be this guy, and he's saying it's happening. So there you go. And then our last bit of news is Ozzy Osbourne, the Prince of Darkness himself, the man, the myth, the compulsive mumbler, is going on his farewell tour. Everyone's saying goodbye to the music industry. Well, Ozzy's not saying goodbye. He's not retiring. He's just farewell to worldwide tours. He will still play gigs, potentially will still write music, and will still put together Ozfest, it sounds like, on a very small scale. They're only going to do a couple of shows over here and there, so you can guarantee those shows are going to be ridiculously priced. But on this, and also, much like Elton John's tour is going to keep him on the road for about 3 years, Ozzy's tour is going to keep him on the road until at least 2020. So it's not like he's going away anytime soon, but eventually he's going to be done. He's in his 70s, man. You got to give the guy a break. For this farewell tour, he has Zakk Wylde back on guitars for him. He has Blasko on bass. Blasko, many of you will know, used to play with Rob Zombie. And he has Tom, to round out the lineup, Tom Klofutis, I think I'm saying that correctly, is going to be his drummer for this tour. So if you have never seen Ozzy, this is very likely your last chance to see him. So probably, if you really want to see Ozzy before you die, and he's on your bucket list for bands, buy a ticket. It's going to be insanely priced, so there's your heads up. But that, my fellow nerds, is where we are ending this week's music episode. What did I miss? What should we talk about next week, guys? Let me know in the comments below. If you want to go deeper into the conversation, jump on over to the website, generallynerdy.net. You can find all the freebies. You can find all the social media links up on the website, generallynerdy.net. If you are new to the channel, click the subscribe button. If you like this episode, click the like button. If you're falling behind on your nerd news and you want to catch up and you're watching me on YouTube, click or tap that box to the left of my face to do that. But before you go, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.